Good afternoon, 6'4" Owl parents. Welcome back. Had a good first week back. In Mass 6 Plus next week, students will be doing their Unit 7 study guide. We're still working on those rational numbers, adding, subtracting, negative numbers, comparing negative numbers and positive numbers to variables, some inequality stuff, right? They'll have their quiz on Tuesday on that. On Wednesday, we have an ELA NC check-in, so we're going to have a real quick class. We will probably look at our quizzes we took the day before and then move on to our last sixth grade unit, which is about data and statistics. We'll spend some time next week just talking about what makes a good statistical question and kind of talking in general about just data. And then we'll get into more of the actual creating some graphs and stuff with that data, right? Mass 6, we just started adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. Yesterday, we did a lot of practice. Today, we're going to continue that practice next week for a couple days. And then we're going to get into the idea of inequalities, comparing them, as well as we're just going to continue practice adding and subtracting. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're just going to do adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers and inequalities next week, and then we'll start the study guide that following week. All right, have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday.
I had a brain fart last time we did
I was
this.
like, we're doing
Totally
something
froze.
I can't think of.
I bring my books this time so I wouldn't have a brain fart. All right, families, welcome back. Last track in before you go off to seventh grade, which is a big deal, right? So that's awesome. I'm going to first start with talking about ELA. We ended today just getting into understanding the different sides of the DDT argument. We watched a video today that was talking about the benefits of DDT. Kids got a chance to watch a video, find an argument within a video, which is a little bit different than reading about an argument. On Monday, we're going to be reading Chapter 4 of Frightful's Mountain, and we'll be doing a check on Chapter 4 on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to be reading an article called The Exterminator. Obviously, we're learning about some insecticides, so The Exterminator kind of works with that. And we're going to be using this article in sections throughout the week. That will not happen on Wednesday because of the NC check-in. So that ELA check-in will definitely hamper our ELA plans, and it'd be kind of mean to do another reading assignment on a reading test day. So we're going to take a little break and do a little booklet with some vocab, and maybe if they did not get their homework done, which is read chapter 5 on Tuesday, we're going to do that on Wednesday too. On Thursday, we're going to be taking that article that we read, and we're going to take it in sections and really like focus in on each little section of this article to examine it a little bit further. And then we're going to end the week off with doing a check on chapters 4 through 6. So by the end of next Friday, we'll be through chapter 6 of Frightful's Mountain. All right, with science, first of all, let me say thank you so much for the flower donations. Definitely had enough to get through the pairs of with labs today. Kids did actual lab right up on the computer with questions that went through the lab. They took themselves through the dissecting of a flower, which is kind of a cool self-paced exploration of what the parts of the flower were. We're going to finish that up on Monday. So thank you for all the donations. That was awesome. Got to say that again. And then next week, we're going to focus on photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and transpiration. So what we did was parts and functions of a flower this week, talk about reproduction. We're going to end that on Monday, maybe into Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're going to take these three big processes that plants do, and we're going to talk about how they are linked. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration are directly linked because one ends where the other one begins. And then we'll get into transpiration, which is nothing new because it's part of the water cycle in fifth grade. We're going to revisit that. These are three tools that plants use for survival. And then we'll be getting into more survival stuff in the following weeks to come. Have a great weekend. As a Bills fan, I'm hoping we have at least one draft pick today. Come on, yesterday, no draft picks?
All right, friends, let's talk a little bit about social studies. We have 1 week left of our unit on social structures, which is how we rank people. Today was the last day that we talked about the Japanese feudal structure. So kids were looking at what the emperor and the shogun, the daimyo, the samurai, we were looking at the levels of the Japanese feudal system. And then at today, if they finished that, they got to take their hand and put it into the vile gangster Jabba the Hutt and pull out one of these little slips. Ooh, I pulled Japanese emperor. Look at that. I get to be the emperor. So they picked a role from one of the 4 groups that we've been looking at. So we talked about the Egyptian hierarchy, we talked about the Roman hierarchy, we talked about the Japanese hierarchy, and we talked about the Indian caste system hierarchy. Then kids are going to pull one of those out. Most of them did today, so you can check in and see if they did. Some of them didn't, but most of them did. And then they're going to do some research around that area, so Japan and India, what it's like there, and they're going to do some research about that level of that hierarchy that they are assigned, and they're going to do how were they treating other people, how were people treating them, what kinds of things did they do in a daily kind of life, and they're going to write next week a bio poem, a poem that basically uses the I see this, I feel this, they treat me this way, I treat them this way. And they're going to write kind of a creative project there. And then on Friday of next week, we're going to have a dinner party. And the kids are all excited about the dinner party because at the dinner party, they're going to be sat at tables in the classroom with other people that aren't in their hierarchy. So that Japanese emperor might be sitting next to an Indian kshatriya or some other level. And they're going to talk to each other. Now, speaking of donations, Mr. O just asked for flowers. Who'd you get?
India Sudras.
He got the Sudra, which is the lowest level of the Indian caste system.
I want to
He
be
is
the
an
emperor.
unskilled laborer. But that's sometimes kind of fun to write about unskilled laborers and how people treat them poorly. But back to the idea of donations. Next Friday, when we have our dinner party, we actually want to have a dinner party. So I would love it if a few families would be willing to share with us some of these boxes of Capri Suns. We need about 8 of these boxes of Capri Suns, and we need some of these goldfish. And it doesn't matter what flavor they are, anything is fine, but the individual wrapped ones make it a little bit easier than the big ones that you have to scoop out the stuff for. And then on Friday, we'll have a party where kids will have a little snack. They'll talk about their role. They'll share their little poems with their tables, and they'll have a fun little opportunity to share. So that's what we're working on this next coming week. The week after that, we start our unit on decline of empires, and then we get into the Middle Ages, Renaissance, and Reformation all the way to the end of the school year. So report cards are coming home next week. Mr. O just said so. Make sure you're checking on Power Schools if you want to see how that's going to look. And if you have any questions, please let us know. If not, have a lovely weekend.